Mini games have been a hot topic in Ponytown forever, for several years. Ever since Patreon was pretty much implemented into the game, we've known that mini games will eventually come to Ponytown. It is one of the goals of Ponytown for it to not just be this social MMORPG where you can roleplay with your friends and customize an island and your character and everything like that, but also mini games. It says it right there on their Patreon, even to this day, that they are going to add mini games eventually into Ponytown. So the question has been forever, when is it going to come? When are mini games going to come? How are they going to implement mini games? What are those mini games going to be like? Today I want to talk about all of these different topics, starting with the mini games themselves and what they could be. I've done a ton of different videos before in the past of what kind of mini games they can implement before. I've done like wish list videos of like mini game ideas. I've done just like 6 mini game ideas in like 2 different videos. I run a series called The Bad Games, which has mini games inside of it, which honestly kind of probably wouldn't make super great mini games for the main game, but they're still there. I've made all kinds of board games and things like that on the island before. I've done all kinds of mini games before in the past, so if you guys want any ideas of mini games, you could check out the channel there. But suffice it to say, there's a lot. One of them is like a shop kind of thing where you're in this map that's like randomly generated or something, and an image comes up on the center of your screen, and it's like, find this item or something like that, and you race to find that item, and the first one to get the item wins that round, and you just do a bunch of different rounds or something. That's one that they can implement. There's a ton more like that on the channel. If you want to see any of those, or if you want future videos on any of that, let me know in the comments below. But I think more interesting is how they're going to actually add mini games to Ponytown. I have 3 different ideas, and pretty much there's only about 3 different ways they can really implement mini games into Ponytown. And starting off is a central building, a single location, an arcade building, if you will, that you can go to on the main map. Maybe it's close to spawn, maybe it's somewhere in the center of the map or something like that, or maybe it's near the docks or something like that where you go to your party island. Somewhere they can just have a central building, a single building that you can go inside of, and then there is just a bunch of different places inside that building. It basically just teleports you to a different map, like how buildings work, and it just has a bunch of different stuff on there. You can go to the corner to play this game, you can go to this corner to play this game, you can go over here in this aisle to play this game. It's kind of just like an actual arcade, but you go there and you can actually play mini games. So that's kind of one of the easy ways to kind of implement mini games into the game. Just give us a building that we can go inside of, and then boom, there you go. It's just like that. Now the next thing is a version of very similar to that basically, and it's not really one I'm a super big fan of, but that is basically to have where mini games are located in just different places on the main map. So you can go to the bakery to play a bakery themed game, or the library to play some kind of library themed mini game, or the marketplace to play some kind of marketplace themed game, or the new campsite, go to the campsite to play some kind of camp themed mini game or something like that, or the docks to play a dock mini game, or the carrot farm to play some kind of farm related mini game or something like that. This is obviously a lot of fun, and it adds flavor to the game, and it gives you a reason to go to these different locations. But at the same time, I've never been a huge fan of this implementation in games before, because for new players, they don't know where to go to play a minigame. For example, they might know that this farm minigame exists, but they have no idea how to play the game because they can't find it. They're looking around the map, and then they're finding other minigames and stuff like that, and they're finding this and that, but they just can't find this one specific minigame, or they just never find the minigame ever and just don't know it exists, and so it never gets played, and it just kind of eventually probably even gets removed from the game from lack of play. This is one of the problems with this implementation. I love it because it adds flavor, but I hate it because for new players, or even just for players that exist right now, whenever they implement this, it might be hard for them to find it after so long. Obviously, after year or after several months, it eventually becomes common knowledge. Of course, there will be signs that you can click on to tell you where to go for this or that or whatever. But let's face it, there's signs right now in the game, and people clearly don't use them because there's still many people that don't know how to get to the docks, or they don't know how to get to the marketplace, or they can't find the library or the campsite, etc., etc. There's so many places that people already can't find that basically hiding the minigames in these locations feels like a bad idea, but it is one of the ways that they can implement minigames, and it's probably, in my opinion, one of the most likely ways that they can implement minigames. Now on to the third idea of how they could add minigames to the game. That is basically a menu button, a menu option, some kind of UI or something that's on your screen that you can click on, and then it just opens up a menu and you can just choose a minigame from basically no matter where you're at on the map. Let's say I want to play a camp-themed minigame or something like that where I'm roasting marshmallows and I have to roast it to the perfect temperature or something. And I go there, and I can be at the docks and click a button on my screen somewhere. Maybe it's in like the settings, or like there's just a special game controller icon or something in the top right or something, and I can click on it, and then it just brings up a list of all the different mini games, how many are currently being played. I could join a party from there or whatever else, and basically just join a mini game from anywhere on the map rather than having to go to a specific location. This, in my opinion, is the best solution, because then it's basically like you don't have to find it. In my opinion, the absolute most perfect way of doing this basically is you have these mini games in specific locations. Again, the campsite, camp theme minigame. You go to there, you can play that minigame. The bakery, you go there, you can play a bakery theme minigame or something like that, right? But at the same time, you have this menu UI or something like that. Maybe you have to be on your party island, or maybe you have to be in a party to do it, or maybe there's certain signposts in different locations that you can click on or something, and you click on it, and you can still access those mini games from basically anywhere. I think this is probably the best way to do it, because one way adds flavor and adventure, so you can just explore and then just happen to find them. Or if you can't find them, you can just click a button and then just choose it on this list of minigames or something, right? I think that's probably the perfect way to implement minigames into the game, is to do both. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Is there some other fourth way to implement minigames into Ponytown that I'm not thinking of? Let me know in the comments below what your favorite idea is for how to implement them. But let's talk about, in the meantime, when are minigames going to come to the game? I tried to do a little bit of research on this because I wanted to look at the development team, see when it was growing, when it was changing and stuff like that. And I went through older videos of update videos, because usually in the update videos, if they add new people to the development team, I usually talk about it. And I did find that 2 years ago, in March of 2022, a new developer was added called Bit Assembly. They have actually created games before in the past. They actually have a game on Steam right now. I think it's called like Philia Stray or something like that. They were actually added to the development team, and in the video you can see that they were there as part of the main development, but they were called a game designer rather than just like a project lead or a programmer or art designer or anything like that. It was game designer, which to me implies that they were probably going to work on something other than the main game, clearly, because it says game design instead of just programmer, which is really weird and strange. When I go on the game right now and go to development team, they're just not listed there. So I looked around and scrolled because they have like their additional contributors and stuff like that, and they actually are listed under additional contributors as game designers, Bit Assembly. But it's really strange because they were on the main development team list, and then at some point in time between March of 2022 and now, they moved him from the main development list here to additional contributors, game designer right here for some strange reason. I don't know if that means they're no longer working there, or if that just means they're just working on something completely separate and they haven't technically done anything to the game in a very long time because they're working on one specific thing, possibly minigames. I don't know. The reason why I bring it up is because it's really strange. It kind of fires up some conspiracy brain powers up in my head here, because it's really strange that he would be listed here under main development, and then after so long, they're just suddenly down here instead. Again, I don't know if it just means they haven't been doing anything on the main game for a while, or if they've been doing something else, and though they have not contributed to any update in the past couple of years because they're working on one big thing, again, possibly minigames. I don't know. That is just my conspiracy brain talking. But there has been other programmers and stuff like Little Faith and Ebu and Pingzing and Hamish and Rainbow Derpy and Cyberpone, Capone T, Thornrose, Ori, and Bitewave. They've all been on there. Over the past few years, though, we've gotten some more like additional development, like polyethylene. They had their own custom server before, and it was crazy. It had all kinds of wacky stuff. I think it actually even had mini games. I don't exactly remember when they were introduced to the team, but it has been a couple of years since they've been added at least. Turncoat has been added. They've worked on Ashes Town quite a bit, and Ashes Town, of course, has a lot of interesting, unique features that Ponytown doesn't have. And so them being brought on as additional development could also be a key factor to minigames eventually coming. I feel like it's more likely that polyethylene and bit assembly are probably working on these kinds of things because they've been known to make like full-fledged games basically on their own. So it is what it is. And then, of course, you have Damien, the Android developer, and Tio Rafa JP, which is an additional artist. So they have all the artists and everything. Their team, I think, is big enough for them to start implementing minigames. But if my theory is correct, and bit assembly and polyethylene were added to the development team as people that are going to work on game development for minigames, then it's been a couple of years since they've been added on. So the question is, how long does it take to implement even a single minigame? Honestly, I think at the very least, it could be like 3 years possibly to develop a minigame. I know like crazy big games, like AAA games, of course, they have huge studios and teams and stuff like that. I know it takes them a handful of years just to get like a thing put together to start working on, possibly put into beta and stuff like that. 3 years for something super simple and small like a minigame, I feel like is reasonable, even if it is just one person, especially since I know this one person has developed an entire game on their own. I feel like 3 years is fair to assume that that's the minimum of like how long it would take, and then a maximum of like 5 to 6 years or something like that, right? Because again, game development takes a really long time, and you're talking about mini games, which is basically its own separate thing that has to be built from scratch. It's not like they have the game itself to work off of or anything like that. You know, it's kind of it kind of would be its own thing, really, if you think about it. So I think, in my opinion, the earliest we could see a single minigame added to the game is next year. That is being extremely hopeful. That is being extremely theoretical, because again, it's been a few years since bit assembly and polyethylene have been added, and I know they're capable of doing this. The question is, have they been working on it? How long have they been working on it? When did they start, etc.? What are they currently doing? What are the minigames going to be like? How complicated is it going to be? Are they going to wait till they have multiple minigames ready to implement them into the game? Or are they going to wait till they have one and just implement one at a time? How is it going to work? There's all those kinds of questions that have to be answered, but I think at the very least, if it is just one minigame and they're going to add them one at a time, I think next year could be a pretty hopeful thing. On the other side of things, the question again becomes, how are they going to implement minigames? If it is go to X location to play X minigame, again, like the campsite, the bakery, etc., they probably are going to wait until the map is basically finished. If they wait till the map is finished in terms of they have all the buildings they wanted, then they might just wait till they have all the buildings they want and then implement minigames. And so if that's the case, it probably will take another couple of years at least, because right now it seems to be we get like basically one new town feature, like the bakery, the library, etc. We get basically like one of those a year. And this year it seems to be the campsite. So take in that information what you will. I really don't know for sure when it's going to come, but my conspiracy says next year, because that is 3 years of development. Now, again, it's purely theoretical on when that's coming, but let me know in the comments below what you think. What is going on with this weird thing? Is bit assembly still working there? Is polyethylene still, well, I guess polyethylene would surely still be working there because they're listed like right directly underneath development team. But let me know in the comments below what you think. And let me know what ideas you have for minigames. Maybe I'll make another video on minigame ideas and stuff like that, even though I've done a bunch of them before in the past. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all of those wonderful things like that. Because when you do wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become wonderful yourself. And I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things, and until next time, stay wonderful.